Hello, everybody. Hello, Darcy Marta. Beautiful Darcy Marta there.
Hello, Jemima.
Hello, and I am Jemima Godsall, excuse me. And we are here to talk about topics surrounding things with mental health awareness, depression, and suicide prevention through awareness. Yes, heavy topics, guys. We understand
Right.
this, but we are here as your friends. And just before we do get started, there is a disclaimer down below, and there is a 1-800 number there too. If you know of yourself or anyone who needs assistance, please know there is always someone to talk to.
Always.
Darcy and I are coming to you from a friend perspective of our own sort of personal experience. And we're happy to, if you want to write a message or topic to talk about, happy to help you out. But if you do need anyone immediately, there is that 1-800 number. So hi, Das.
Hi, Jemima.
How you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. Good. Today, this week, guys, we have a guest again, finally. Woohoo! It takes balls to come on, I swear to God. Not do I realize until people say, yeah, and then they go, oh, no. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess it's kind of heavy. It's kind of like, hello, let's talk about your darkest moments. But anyway, we do have a guest today. Das, you wanted to bring on a beautiful lady called Vicki Graham, and she is, excuse me, everyone, from Australia. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Got to plug me so that we're already kin. But I just wanted to, just before we pop her in, just say a bit about her, what you know of her, and why.
Well, Vicki Graham, I don't know her that well. I know her as an associate through a brush up course I took. So, I do restorative hypnosis, and I've done hypnosis and meditation and, healing modalities for a long time. And then in 2005, my dear friend Lisa Huberler created this technique called restorative hypnosis or restorative hypnotherapy. Anyway, I learned it from her, and I'd been doing it for ages. And then suddenly she put it online, started teaching classes. And I said, hey, I could really use a brush up class. So I went to her class. It was her first class she started with. And there was this wonderful group of healers and practitioners. And we were all so open with each other. And Vicki Graham was a physical therapist. I'm going to let her talk about herself. She's a physical therapist, but she was so open and talking about, her big feelings and her difficulties and sharing so much, I thought, and her experience with suicide and depression and etc. I just really thought she could give us so much insight. And she is also a restorative hypnotherapist. So she does that technique and a number of techniques. So I just really want to hear from her.
Thank you for leading us to her, and I'm going to bring her on now. So guys, it's about to press stop recording. No, that's the wrong button. Okay, I'll try. Here we are. Admit. There she goes. Hello, Vicki.
Vicki's connecting. She's connecting to audio. Oh. There you are.
Hello.
Hi, Vicki.
Hi, hold on one second. I'm just turning on all my stuff.
Sure. Yep, it's such a process. I mean, I really appreciate Zoom and being online, but it really is a process. And I have to take my intuitive mind and turn it over to my technical mind. Sometimes the two minds just don't meet.
And sometimes it's not even up to us. It's the ethereal interference with the computers, I swear.
Yeah, I think so. So while Vicki there you are.
Hello.
Yay, how great to see you.
Hi. Nice to see you too. Nice to meet you, Jemima.
Yes, you too, Vicki. Pleasure. Thank you so much for coming. As you know, Darcy and I talk every week regarding topics surrounding mental health awareness, suicide prevention through awareness, and depression topics. So I'm so blessed to have you here because we love having guests on talking about their trauma to triumph. Dare we say that?
Yes.
In it's a pleasure to meet you, but I don't really know your story. So would you possibly, Vicky, be able to give us sort of a reason why Darcy brought you here?
Besides the fact that I just think you're an amazing human being.
Oh, wow. Well, I know it's funny when you were talking about all the things you talk about, and the first thing that popped into my head with my dark sense of humor was some lighthearted topics, right?
Yeah, exactly what I always say. Yeah.
So I think that's what's really seen me through in life is I have a very twisted sense of humor, and if I can find the funny in anything, I know I'll be okay. So so I've been really pondering like how to tell this story, and I guess I want to start with the fact that it has a happy ending. So so don't worry, it's gonna get a little. I'm gonna warn you, it's gonna get a little dark, but it has a happy ending. Yes, Darcy.
Hey, can you just give everybody a little bit of your background about the work that you do now? You do a variety of things, and then that would be great.
Yeah,
I
I'll
kind
start
of
at
did
the
a little
end.
bit, but I don't know all the beautiful things that
I
you do.
know. Aw, I'm an eclectic woman. So, and probably an insane overachiever. So that's probably always makes it hard. I don't always, I've learned not to reveal everything about me because sometimes it can be intimidating to people. Like you do that and that and that. Yeah. If that makes sense. Because, the overachieving thing. Am I good enough now? Am I good enough yet? Am I good enough now? So I am an American-born physical therapist living in Australia. So that's the about my career. Yes, I live in Wodonga, halfway between Sydney and Melbourne, in a little country town right on the border of New South Wales and Victoria. And so, if you're not an Aussie, you think of Australia as this big glob of a planet, of like a country, but it's really more like a bunch of little countries all smushed together that don't always agree about very much, which has been highlighted by the pandemic, I would say. Would you agree, Jemima?
Completely, definitely.
Yeah, it's little provinces more than one country. And so I am also adopted, and I was born with a cleft lip and palate, and so I was a special needs adoptee. So I came pre-packaged with trauma. So I was relinquished at birth, and then the families that were supposed to adopt me didn't want me because I wasn't perfect merchandise, because an adoptee is supposed to be a perfect little baby, and I wasn't a perfect little baby. So they said they took a pass, and I was in an institution for the first year until my parents came along. So there's all sorts of that, and then many surgeries as a child. And even though my adoptive parents were really great, it was as a struggle to have any self-esteem growing up. I really struggled with that quite a bit. But I was also blessed with a twisted, dark sense of humor, an imaginative mind, and a love of my own company. So I got by through books, lots and lots of books and reading, and usually one good friend. And I found purpose and meaning through becoming a physical therapist. So that was kind of a very short arc of my childhood. And then since being a therapist, I moved here because I fell in love with an Aussie and followed my heart and came here, which was a wonderful experience. I found myself kind of burned out on doing the physical therapy, and especially foreign trained. It's so much work to get licensed in a new country. And I ended up specializing I've always done trauma. I've always specialized in trauma. That's where my heart always lies, is people that are going through their darkest time. I'm all there for that. And as a physio, I did that. And now I'm doing it as a vision therapist, working at an optometrist practice, which is my husband's practice. So it's sort of an extension of what I've done. And then I did a lot of training where I met Darcy on restorative hypnotherapy and learning about the deep unconscious, which I'd always wondered about as a physical therapist. Like, I know why your knee hurts, but I can't figure out why you're mad at me about it, or why, like all that psychology underneath the injury and the pain and the trauma. And so I feel like now I sort of put together an understanding of the trauma response and human beings in a way that makes sense to me, that I can do work to help people. So that's that part. I'm also a writer, which was always my dream. I followed the career path of being a healthcare provider because it was more practical, but I always wanted to write. And so now I have a book. I've been published. I wrote a textbook with a friend that's now being optioned for a second edition. And I've written a memoir because I'm in reunion with my birth mother. So,
wow.
Yeah. And I'm looking at writing some things around vision therapy and trauma response and things like that. So I feel like I'm in my third act. So doing all the stuff I've learned. Yeah.
What is your tale then of your trauma to triumph? What is the bigger picture?
Yes.
These are fantastic, and I know I already feel inspired.
Yeah,
To
yeah.
know what the story behind it, dare I say.
So my story of trauma to triumph, I would say, like I said, I came preloaded with some trauma from the adoption, the living in a, being an orphan, then all my childhood surgeries. And what I've learned about bullying is that if you believe the bully, it's more impactful. So I always believed the bullies that told me I was ugly and weird. And it was hard not to, because I had to have surgery to not look that way. So it was like the world kind of reinforced that I was not worthy. And of course, what we look like is so important in life, as we all know. We don't like to think it is, but that's the message. So being shy, having a speech impediment, looking different, and feeling not worthy was just a lot as a kid.
Yes.
And then once you become sort of the kid that gets bullied, it's hard not to be the kid that gets bullied. So
Right.
I don't think I realized how clinically depressed I was chronically as a child, because I was too busy being fake happy, which is common with adoptees as well. If you're not happy, then maybe they'll give you back. I was very performative as a child. I was bright and I had this happy version of me, and I buried all my feelings in my Pandora's box. Only happy feelings are allowed. And so that eventually became just too much. And I succumbed to the dark side, I would say, in high school. And I just became sort of lost and in deep, deep clinical depression, which I did not know I was in. And I had a very classic cry for help suicide attempt. And unfortunately, fortunately, it was an attempt, not a successful one. And unfortunately, when I went to get the response of the adults around me was rather horrible. The doctor at the emergency room laughed at me because I didn't take enough drugs to do any harm.
Wow.
Or even have my stomach pumped, if you can imagine. And then my mom really didn't let me have therapy because she was afraid I would talk about her. So I just, the one time I sort of let out all of this deep unhappiness, it was just slammed back shut. So I locked it back up. And when the second time I had a clinical depression was after a miscarriage, after I'd gotten married. And when I met my husband, I did not have any memories of my childhood whatsoever. That's how completely I'd locked it up. So I just, went back to happy Vicki. Happy Vicki has no past. So I went away to school and I was just a blank slate. I rewrote myself. And so the really cool part about my second clinical depression is that I was having anxiety, and I had a boss who called me into his office one day, and he started talking about himself, which was weird because I thought I was in trouble. You know, I was always so fear-based, like, what have I done wrong? And he started telling me about how he'd had clinical depression. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, is he opening up to me? And I was so uncomfortable. And then he slid this book over the desk to me. And it was about clinical depression. And I remember looking up at him in horror and thinking, does he want me to take this book? And he said, I don't know for sure, but I think you might be clinically depressed, and I wanted you to get some help. Yeah.
Wow.
And I was so horrified because it was like I almost felt naked in front of him. Like,
right? Wow. He took a huge chance.
I know. What a beautiful man. So good. And I took that book and ran as fast as I could out of his office, and we never spoke of it again. I avoided him for a while, but I did get help. I went to see a therapist for the second time in my life. This time I wasn't living with my parents anymore. So I dealt with my clinical depression, and because I said, I'm not depressed, I'm just anxious. And then I found out, oh, I'm depressed. And then this is where my sixth sense of humor comes in again, because when I found out I had clinical depression, and I probably had it before, more than once even, I realized that through that teaching that if you have one episode of clinical depression, you'll probably have more. And I was so sad about that. I was depressed about being depressed.
Right.
And then I wasn't ready to go any deeper. So I just sort of got a few coping skills and hit the high road. And just again was so horrified and I labeled myself, there's something wrong with me, I'm broken. And that's where I started really, I think, doing a lot of harm to myself. When I would have the sad thoughts, instead of sending them love and compassion, I would reject that part of me. What's wrong with you? You're fine. And that got me into so many cycles of depression. And then I started struggling with my weight, and just, it was about a decade of just nightmarish cycling in and out of loathing. And it was rough. And I tried a couple more therapists, get a little bit of help. I lift up just a hair, couldn't go any deeper, dropped out. So it was just kind of staying barely functional. I remember one therapist in particular, she and I had been working together. I was starting to trust her. I had a lot of trust issues. And we had a conversation one day, and she said, oh, well, that you said something earlier that I'd like to go back to about your mother the next session. And I sat in her chair and I thought, she was nice. It's too bad I won't be seeing her again. We won't be talking about my mother. And I was like, literally, I'm like, this one was nice. It was like a conscious thought, like, too bad. There's no way in. Am I allowed to swear? I don't know if have to keep it. Okay. There is no way in heck I am ever going to talk about my mother in therapy. No way. And at this point, I hadn't even told my mom I was in therapy. That was too scary. So I finally found another therapist and then I had another serious suicide thought. So I remember, and this is the one I wrote about in my blog. I was chopping vegetables, and my adorable toddler was sitting in their high chair. Living the dream. That I was married. I had a career, a baby, like every box was ticked. And I'm sitting there, and I think Jamie was playing with like spoons or something, just making little cute toddler noises, eating their Cheerios. And I remember chopping the vegetables and just looking and thinking that I could just slice my wrist open and it would be so easy to do. And I sat there picturing the blood, and I mean, it was so dark. It scared me like to death almost. The fear that I was so close to being able to kill myself with my baby in the room. I just, and I remember calling the therapist I had at that time, and the one that I ended up quitting because she brought up my mother. But I did call her and just weep, like almost crying, because I didn't cry well. I was so shut down back then. No emotions were allowed in. But I told her, I'm so terrified that I might kill myself. I think I need to see you immediately. And she said, the fact that you're calling me tells me that you're probably not going to do anything. Yeah. And that was reassuring. That was very grounding. The fact that it terrified me that I might do that. But I have never, I feel, even telling you now, I feel the hairs on my neck. Like that was such a sad moment for me. It was just heartbreaking that I would feel that way.
I'm sorry.
I'm so dark.
I'm coughing and I'm crying at the same time. I'm sorry. I'm in your like dark humor mode here.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I mean, it was really a horrible moment. That was probably one of the worst moments of my life.
So sorry to hear that.
And thank God the therapist like called me right. I don't know if she picked up or called me right back, but I was still sitting at the table when I talked to her. Thank God.
And that's really the key, is to get people to call when they're in the midst of that. And that's the biggest and most important thing. And the fact that you did that, what resilience you have.
Oh, thank God.
God.
And we need to normalize the conversation around this, so you can feel a lot more at ease to call. Like you're such a warrior, WARR, such a warrior in that moment to go and seek that help, like, and just no bars held, good, congratulations, like it takes so much balls to do that. And it just because the conversation isn't normalized, that it adds a layer, so much more difficulty behind that phone call, where it should be so much easier. Like we've stigmatized depression and moments of vulnerability to suicide as a bad thing, whereas it's like that's someone they need to have a place to call help, to have place they can reach out. Like it's just, oh, Vicky, wow, like goodness me.
So you just helped me see I can literally draw a direct line from that boss sliding that book over to me. If I had never had the courage to have 3 different therapists, who I of course fired, but at least I had a number in my phone to call, and I had been to at least 1 or 2 therapists at that point, that my boss saved my life really, and saved my child from horrific trauma. I mean, who knows if I would have done it or not, but I know that it was certainly a consideration, and that was for way too long. With
that enlightenment, Vicky, what was the sort of, how did you move forward with that enlightenment moment where you were like, holy moly,
Yeah, holy moly is right. And so what I did then was I finally had the courage to go a little deeper. I told my mother I was in therapy, and her first response was, you better not be talking about me.
Wow.
She was consistent to the end. God bless her. And that was her journey. And I said, oh, of course not, Mom. It's just me. I'm sad, and how I've always been a little sad, and but at least I had the courage to tell her, so that I had a little courage to go a little deeper. Right. And then that therapist helped me see how destructive it was for me to not honor my feelings. So she helped me with that, because the shame cycle was keeping me spiraling down. What's wrong with you? You have no reason to be. I guess only certain people are allowed to be sad, and I wasn't in that category. So she helped me with that part of it, which I have to say has been the most helpful thing of all, really, for me as a person who is much more comfortable with living with ever-present potential clinical depression. The fact that I can now say, I'm dropping down. Okay, what do I need to do? Go to the gym, resource, healthy eating, healthy, health, do all the things I need to do with my self-care. Where am I falling down? And love myself. Reach out even though I want to hide. I do all the things now that I need. And that's because I learned to love myself as I am, someone who lives in the shadows all the time with my dark sense of humor. And I've learned to find that that's okay. I like myself the way I am now. I think I like my darkness. It's part of me.
Yeah.
So that's what that therapist helped me do. She helped me learn to love myself exactly as I am.
And how, can I ask Vicky, did she use specific tools that you've taken? How did you work in that self-love? Like when, I know it's so hard to bounce back from suicide attempt,
Yeah, I think she only took me part of the way. It was really because again, she was the one I did quit when she said, we need to talk more about your mom. And I'm like, bye-bye. But it wasn't that many years later that I found a therapist when I wasn't in crisis. And that was the magic. Right. It wasn't when I was in crisis. It was when I wasn't in crisis that I could do it.
Jemima and I talk about this a lot. We say practice before you need your practice, right?
Yeah.
Look at your tools, put your stuff up, set yourself up so that when you do hit that place, you have like a ladder to climb out of it.
Right. So the therapist that helped me in the crisis helped me love myself enough to feel worthy so that when I was out of crisis, I could find a therapist.
Right.
If that makes sense. So she got me out of the hole, but I was just laying on the ground. Like but I wasn't in the hole, but I couldn't climb up any higher until I was out of crisis. And then, because you got to feel safe. Well, I think everyone's this way, to be able to do the work of therapy, because therapy is some hard work. So it doesn't happen when one's in crisis. It happens when one's feeling well. So I remember I found my wonderful final therapist, at least so far final, when I went to her and I told her, I found her. I looked online. I found someone that I liked her kind face. She had this sort of Stevie Nicks vibe. She was very earth mothery, which was really different from my mom, who was very buttoned up. And I'm like, oh, I like that lady. And, just there was a feeling. And I went and sat in her office and I told her, I am here to unpack my Pandora's box that I have spent a lifetime filling. And we're not going to stop until we get to the bottom of the box. And because hope is at the bottom and I need to find hope because she's been smothered down there too long.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
And that's what I actually told her because I'm a reader. So yeah. Pandora. And Pandora has been a lifetime obsession with me. I used to have a little record of it when I was a little girl. Don't open the box. Don't open the box. And I used to think that Pandora was a lunatic. Why would you open that box?
Yeah.
I was the opposite of Pandora. Just fill the box, shut it, and move on.
Are there any tools in specific that really work for you in terms of dealing with Pandora's box per se? Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, airing it out, I recommend. So I finally did get to the bottom. It took a long time. So the first tool is to love myself enough to know that I'm worthy of getting help.
Right.
The other thing that really helped me was, I think Brene Brown's work on shame has been incredibly helpful. The antidote to shame is love. I went to Al-Anon, which was a 12-step program. My father was an alcoholic. And I didn't realize that because it was so normalized. I just thought he was a social drinker who drank until he blacked out. That was just like, I don't know. It's just weird, but that was what I
mean,
thought.
that's a good point, because when you grow up in an environment that is normalized, that's what's normal. There's no reason to question it until you're out of the environment. And then you can look back and go, wow, what the heck was that?
Yeah.
Right.
My therapist suggested Al-Anon when we started delving into my past. And she's like, I think you might want to try Al-Anon. I'm like, why? Well, just try it. So I just did everything she told me to in the early days, because I just trusted her. And that was where I let go of my shame, because I had all of this shame around my family, and then extended into other parts of my life, and being a fake version of myself. Because if anyone knew the truth, which my mother was the Al-Anon, the untreated Al-Anon. And so that was the binary star in my life. My father was the charming, charismatic father that I thought was perfect. And my mother was angry and controlling. But I learned in Al-Anon why that my father wasn't so perfect, and that he was part of the package. So that really helped, because I was really I blamed my mom for everything. And I learned that my dad wasn't so perfect either. And it really helped me see her as a person. So that was so great, because I was able to work through all of that before she died, and forgive her for being an imperfect, but also wonderful mother who did the best she could. She didn't get to have a career. She had all of that, frustrated housewife stuff going on, and I have a lot of compassion for my mom now. She should never have been a mom. So she did the best she could with her limited skills. So I'd say 12-step, shame work, and self-love. Self-love comes from positive self-talk, cognitive behavioral therapy. My therapist had me, I had this, I still have it on the fridge today, cognitive distortions. Am I, what cognitive distortion? So I learned how to change the way I thought, because my thinking was wrong. Right. And it wasn't me that was wrong. It was my thinking that was wrong. So those are like the 3 pillars, I'd say. Cognitive behavioral work. Now I do affirmations a little bit, and count your blessings, things like that. The 12-step work, and then just knowing what works for me, which is exercise, treating myself to my favorite yummy food, without shame, Vicky, and
retraining your brain. Can I put a question mark as into how long is this taking? How long does it take? So when does it become more of the habit than the bad pattern of behavior?
I would say it was a good year of regular daily practice before it didn't feel stupid.
Okay.
So I always thought I wanted to write a book called "Those Stupid Affirmations Really Work."
That would be great. You should do it. You should.
Because I remember, do you guys remember Saturday Night Live?
Yes. Yeah.
With all that Louise Hay, and he's looking in the mirror and he's like, because you're worth it. Yeah, you're smart enough and you're good enough.
Yeah.
Gosh darn it, you're worth it. And so I remember looking at that and just thinking that was hilarious. Like, I just totally agreed with that. So it was a chipping away of all of that, disregarding of that, and that took a good year. Another part of it, I'd say, was yoga. I was a LA girl, and I found yoga at the YMCA. I didn't go to a yoga studio. My first yoga class, somebody I worked with did yoga with her patients. So I was a physical therapist, and I thought, oh, okay, I'll try a class, and if that can help my patients, great. Because of course I wasn't going to work on myself. Right. It was for them. Yes. And the first time I ever did a yoga class in the Y, on the borrowed mat, like the smelly borrowed mat in the Y, I did the yoga class, and then at the end we did Shavasana, the corpse pose, and I went down so deep that the teacher had to wake me up, like by kind of shoving me, and the room was empty, the lights were out, everyone was gone, and I was like, what happened? I don't think I'd had ever had a feeling of being so deeply safe in my entire life until that day in the cold YMCA floor laying in corpse pose. And I thought, ooh, I'm going. But the problem was, unfortunately, I felt ashamed because the teacher wanted to leave. So it triggered my shame. And so I kept going, but I didn't let myself get that vulnerable again, unfortunately. But I did eventually go back to yoga when I was doing the cognitive retraining. I talked to my therapist about it, and she's like, "You might want to go to yoga again." And so I went, and then I started crying during yoga, and that was really good. So it's all that stuff in my body. So I was completely an intellectualizer, and I shut everything off here. So yoga let me let it go without having to think about it or even necessarily feel it.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's all that muscular memory, right? Your body just holds on to all those traumas and the emotions that go with them, and then the thoughts that go with the emotions, and we hold it in our body. You get to a yoga class where you feel safe, you start stretching and breathing it out, and then what's happening? Right?
I know.
All those feelings, right?
The first time I cried in yoga, it was like an animal howl. I was so embarrassed. I think we were doing camel, like was one of those heart openers. And I got into it and I've been doing yoga long enough where I was pretty supple. I think it was a hot yoga class. And I finally got into the full pose. And then I was like, ah, and I went, and I flipped over and went into child's pose, and I was just crying. And the teacher just came over and she said, "It's okay. Everyone cries in yoga." She was so good. So she did not shame me because she was a proper yoga teacher. I think the lady at the Y was like somebody who'd probably taken a little yoga. So I would say that would be, if I was going to give any advice, not that I want to give advice, but I would say find a yoga teacher. If you're ready, find one that can handle the crying and the emotion, and not, because I've been to classes where they stay above the surface, and I don't want that anymore. I want a class I can cry in if I need to, and no one will freak out.
Right.
Vicky, can I ask?
Yeah.
Up really soon because we're going to end with a card or a meditation or something from Darcy.
Nice
with that. But Vicky, my love, do you have like a morning ritual or something that you can give some
yes,
potion or anything?
absolutely. I'm incredibly rigorous. So I have Insight Timer on my phone, which changed my life because I was never really good about structure. Insight Timer. It's an app on your phone, and it's free. And that made me, and I'm just competitive enough to want to not miss a day, because it gives you, if you want, it will tell you if you're consistent. So it just hooks me a little bit. And that started me meditating daily back in 2016. And that I'm so grateful for that. So it's the very first thing I reach for in the morning is I do my Insight Timer meditation. I always meditate for 20 minutes. A lot of times I'll do a 5-minute guided, and then I'll do 15 on my own. I've taken so much meditation training now, I can meditate silently, but I still like a little daily affirmation. So I have a couple favorites that are like 5 or 10 minutes of, I am a warrior of peace and love, and, or whatever I'm in the mood for. I always meditate. I do yoga every day. I do a little juice detox. And I always go outside in the morning and have the morning sun. I haven't made sure I got a dog. When I moved to Australia, we have a greyhound, and nothing like a dog to keep you going outside regularly, because
that's right.
They got to pee. Yep. So he gets my butt out of bed every single day, rain or shine, 365 days a year. And that's really healing. So I do that every single day. And in the evening, I turn off all media and have at least a half an hour before I go to bed so that I can settle in.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Awesome. That's so important what you were saying about affirmations. I mean, I use a lot of affirmations for myself and with clients. And people will tell me, like they'll come back to another session. I have a little mosquito flying around here. They'll come back and they'll say, well, I've been trying the affirmations and they're not working. And I always have to remind people, remember, you practiced that negative speech, negative thought, negative behavior for how many years? And now you need to practice the flip side of that, the positive. And it really, we're in that society, fast food society. Everything's fast, fast, fast. So it's very hard when we're going to be consciously practicing and not try to impose that timeline on it. So good for you that you're continuing to practice. That's a big deal, to continue to practice.
Oh, I need it. Yeah. I'm not naturally very disciplined. So that's why I use my competitive nature to help me. I compete against myself. I missed a day. I had a 2-year running streak and I missed a day a year ago and I'm still a little annoyed. So like every day I'm like, I'm up to 330 consecutive days. I'm like,
well, lovely lady Vicky, what a pleasure it's been to chat with you today. Your positive attitude and your look on life after being through your trauma to triumph is just an inspiration, and it's been an honor to chat with you. Thank you, Darcy, for inviting her. And we hope maybe you come back another time and discuss a bit further on anything you like from your trauma to triumph. We can all learn a little from each other at any time, and I'm sure there's lots of stuff you can talk about, and we'd love to chat with you again, no doubt, in the future.
Thank you. It's been an honor to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, it's so lovely. Thanks, Vicki. I'm going to give you your choice. So I can pull a card for you or a rune for you. I have different oracle cards I pull for people.
Oh, I want a card.
You want a card? So you can have, let me give you your choice of cards.
I love it.
Your oracle card could be an animal card, an animal totem, Native American. It could be animals and angels combination. It could be energy cards, or it could be moonology cards.
I'm going to let you pick whatever you want to do.
For you? Okay.
Tricky.
Oh, no, she'll know intuitively what I meant to get.
Okay. Yeah, I just decided.
I knew it.
Right? You just kind of, I just decided. So then this is for Vicki. Thank you for coming today. And we just want to know what Vicki can take with her this week. What is it that's going to support her this week in her work, in her studies, in her writing, and her development, because you've got all that amazing, great energy. And so something will come with you. Oh, that's great, to help you with that. So I am using animal cards, the animal medicine cards for Vicki, right? The medicine cards.
Yeah, I love those.
I do too. And so this is great. So this card I haven't seen in a long time. Where did you go? Is Badger. Badgers.
Yeah.
Badgers are fierce, strong, amazing animals. Badgers. A badger can take on a bear.
Oh.
A badger is pretty outrageous. So I smiled because, Vicki, from just looking at you, if I had just met you, I would say, oh, what a beautiful woman she is, with her long flowing red hair and her beautiful sparkly eyes and that gorgeous smile, right? I wouldn't know how strong and resilient you are just by looking at you. You look so delicate. And so it's lovely that you have all this fire in you, right? And so the badger has this aggressiveness in it. It attacks with powerful aggression. It's quick to anger and quicker to pounce. And the power of badger's medicine is aggressiveness and the willing to fight for what it wants. What great energy. The very thought of facing badger makes other animals run for cover. Like skunk, badger's reputation precedes it. Its medicine is the medicine of many powerful medicine women. For badger is also the keeper of medicine roots. Badger sees all the roots of Mother Earth, healing herbs hanging in its burrow's home. So it sees those roots. And these roots are a key to aggressive healing.
Wow.
Roots can ground negative energy into the earth by allowing illness to pass through a body into the ground as neutral energy. Bear medicine people are quick to act in crisis and they do not panic. So if you should be quick to express your feelings and do not care what the consequences are. Allow yourself to take on this badger medicine. So let's see here. If badger has pushed its way into your cards today, it may be telling you that it is time to reach a goal. Badger asks, how long are you willing to sit and wait for the world to deliver your silver spoon, or are you ready to reach that goal right now? In this medicine, the key is to become aggressive enough to do something about your present state of fears and move yourself forward. Badger is teaching you to get angry in a creative way and say, I can move forward fearlessly. Follow up by keeping your eye on the goal. Honor your healing process as you express those inner feelings. Were you just talking about that? Yeah. That's great. You know, anger is not a bad thing, and neither is aggression. It's what we do with it. It's the do energy. It's the do energy that says, I am ready for a change and I'm ready to take my power now. So using your anger to pull yourself into the next step, there's a next level coming to you. It's powerful medicine for self-improvement. It's a time when you can use your healing abilities to push ahead in life. So move forward, ground yourself, know that Mother Earth is there for you.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Oh, I can feel that in my bones. Thank you so much.
You're
Thank you.
so welcome. That really makes a lot of sense for me, little badger. What a great healing woman you are.
Well, I immediately thought of Monty Python and nasty, sharp, pointy teeth. When you said badger. Look at the bones, man.
It's been such an honor, Vicky, having you with us today. Thank you so much, and we'd love to see you again. And Darcy, of course, pleasure again. And thank you for that card pull. You can't make this shit up, seriously. Sorry, YouTube. Anyway, my loves, let's say good night and see you next week. And peace out there. Be safe. Be careful with everything, and take care.
Take care, everybody. Thank you, Vicky. Thank you, Jemima.
Thank you for